today it's Friday. Celebrating birthdays this weekend, Scarlett Johansson turns 40, actor Mark Ruffalo is 57, and tomorrow Miley Cyrus turns 32.
Miley Cyrus is still looking pretty good. Though I will say I preferred younger, crazy, naked Miley. And I don't want to get any of her fans pissed, but it's getting harder to find her attractive whenever I hear her voice.
The journey is usually the part that you remember anyway.
And all I hear is this.
Wazowski, you didn't file your paperwork last night. Don't let it happen again.
Happy birthday to Miley Cyrus. I came in like a wrecking ball.
In news this morning, President-elect Donald Trump has named Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General of Florida, to be U.S. Attorney General just hours after his other pick, Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name.
Yeah, and that's how you know you're not crazy, by the way. Even the Republicans were like, we're not voting for you. Like, the Republicans were like, no, not him, not Beavis. No, he can't come, no.
Well, and there are also the talks of this was the strategy all along. He takes the other role, so the case goes away, and then he actually doesn't take on the role, and he moves on.
He could have make the case go away by simply quitting like he did. For the record, he still doesn't have that job anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's the worst theory I've ever heard in my life.
I can't wait to see what he does next.
To say he quit to stop the case.
I know.
But knowing he wasn't going to move forward.
I know.
That's absurd.
People have a lot of time each day between the time we come in here and leave.
I notice people only think about making something fit the narrative that they want to believe, but they never decide to take it 2 more steps forward to go, does that make sense to you? Does
that make sense to me?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, by the way, Bondi's a longtime Trump ally and was one of his lawyers during his first impeachment trial. She's been a vocal critic of the criminal cases against him as well. And Gaetz stepped aside amid continued fallout over the federal sex trafficking investigation that cast doubt on his ability to be confirmed as the nation's chief federal law enforcement officer. Today marks 61 years since President John F. Kennedy was assassinated as his motorcade passed through downtown Dallas on November 22, 1963. Even after over 6 decades, conspiracy theories about what happened that day still swirl. The desire to follow every thread of information hasn't waned. President-elect Trump made promises over the summer that if reelected, he would declassify the remaining records. At this point, they say only a few thousand of millions of pages of records related to the assassination have yet to be fully released. Those who have studied what's been released so far say the public shouldn't anticipate any earth-shattering revelations, even if the remaining files are declassified.
Well, I don't think our government will admit to smoking their own guy in classified form. I don't think they're like, we're going to write it down but not let anyone read it. Again, I don't feel like that's going to go
There has been an attempt, as perhaps you know now, on the life of President Kennedy. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown.
So if it was somebody else, the Cubans, if it was the Russians, if it was just Lee Harvey Oswald, if it was Sam Giancana and the mob, they wouldn't classify that. They would love to have the boogeyman. They'd love to have this is exactly who did it. This is who you should be angry at.
Look, we have them. We have who the person or group is.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people who believe we did it. CIA. Mm-hmm. Mess with the money, that's the end of that. Like, so many things were changing, so it...
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
In other news, a Florida man's been charged in a plot to bomb the New York Stock Exchange. The man worked with several FBI informants and undercover employees, telling them that, quote, the stock exchange, we want to hit that because it will wake people up, end quote. The FBI received a tip about him storing bomb-making schematics in an unlocked storage unit in Coral Springs, Florida. search of the unit found numerous electronic watches with alarm and timer features and various electronic circuit board components. The man had a history of making violent threats, a YouTube channel that allegedly shared bomb-making tips, and had recently made comments in support of the Parkland school shooter following being fired from a job at a restaurant. He was arrested this week for his threats. An out-of-control passenger on board an American Airlines flight from Milwaukee to Dallas charged a flight attendant and tried to open a plane door mid-air, forcing other passengers to restrain him with duct tape. Man got up from his seat on flight 1915, told a flight attendant that he needed to get off the plane. When the crew member told him that wasn't possible, he grew louder and angrier and then rushed the staffer to try to reach the cabin door. Flight attendant was able to stop him, and 3 passengers jumped up to help control him. Group pinned the flyer down, used duct tape from the onboard flight kit, and tied him up with his wrists and ankles restrained. When the flight landed, by the way, police boarded the plane, took him into custody. He was taken away in a wheelchair and was sent to undergo a mental evaluation. Flight attendant was treated for injuries to her neck and wrists. Hold, please. My paper's sticking. Speaking of planes, some people think it's in poor etiquette to recline your seat. Others think it should just be outright banned, at least on shorter flights.
Well, I don't know. Listen, nobody enjoys having the seat in front of them reclined on them.
No.
But they recline because they're intended to recline.
Sure.
The real problem is, like, the people who built them. Like, as a rule, I try not to. I try to be aware of everything. But yeah, if it's a long flight, if you got a flight to New York, yeah, I'm probably gonna get my quarter-inch.
Get my quarter-inch.
We go. Use that much. But it's just, and my whole thought has always been, well, if the next person reclines, well, then you've gained it again. If the person behind you reclines, and if I go back a half an inch, and then that person back then goes half inch, we're all pretty okay.
And there I am sitting on the wall next to the can.
But if you're, holding a baby, or if somebody says, please don't, I wouldn't.
Right.
But I don't think it's the person's, I really don't. The goddamn things recline.
I know. A new survey conducted by the Harris poll said 41% of American adults say they support a ban on reclining seats during domestic flights. Of the surveyed respondents, the demographics most in favor are those over 65 years old and those between 18 and 34 years old.
Well, people that the problem is nobody wants to blame the truth on the airline. That's the problem. You make the planes too small. The area's not big enough. Regular people can't fit in it. God bless the tall people. It's your knees that get smoked. That's who really gets hit. It's tall people. It's not even fat people. It's tall people. They just get punished on those planes, man.
And for that, it sucks, because they've just tried to cram as many seats in a plane as they can for one more ticket to sell. Tens of millions of dollars set to go back to the federal government because of a dispute among legislatures in Jackson County, Missouri, is still a problem. $70 million in unused COVID relief aid money was set to be spent as part of a spending plan approved by legislatures on a vote of 5-4. However, County Executive Frank White didn't agree, exercising his veto power. Legislators tried to override that veto but failed. Now, meeting this week was set to take the issue up once more, but 5 of the legislatures chose not to show up as a form of principled protest against White's earlier veto. They called the meeting a charade designed to force them to approve a different spending plan that the legislatures largely disagreed with. They have until the end of the year to figure it out, or they will have to return the $70 million to the federal government. Investigators say 2 undocumented Venezuelan men specifically targeted Bank Midwest ATMs in Kansas and Missouri when they installed skimming devices to steal information and money from customers. The suspects were arrested in Kirkwood, Missouri. Richmond police recovered 3 cell phones that could yield additional evidence about potential accomplices. The 2 men booked in the jail this week, and they believe they stole close to $6,700 from at least 45 victims in the area. Did you hear they announced some of the folks coming to Kansas City's Planet Comic-Con yesterday? Mario Lopez, Tori Spelling, Brian Austin Green, all coming to Planet Comic-Con.
Tori Spelling was just in town for Exiled KC, friend of Darren Bozeman, the director for Saw 2, 3, 4, and that did The Haunt out there in Bonner Springs. She was just here. Brian Austin Green's in. Elizabeth Berkley's in, by the way.
Elizabeth Berkley. And Pam Grier, also another one that's mentioned, and Katie Sackhoff. Music news. This made me laugh. Halestorm has teamed up with American country duo Brooks and Dunn to record a reimagined version of one of their biggest hits, which is included on Brooks and Dunn's Reboot 2 album, which is out now. And
I'm not a Brooks and Dunn fan, but everybody does this in Nashville now. So anybody with legend, they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
So they get a bunch of artists together and they redo their songs. And so it's not like they've got together with Brooks and Dunn and wrote a song. They're on a tribute record where they cover it. And I will tell you, again, I'm not a Brooks and Dunn fan, but listen to what they did with it. It's pretty.
Scoot and Boogie.
It's heavier. Have you heard it yet?
Nope.
A lot heavier than you would think. I mean,
They did a great job yet again.
yeah. And so he comes in. It's Dunn, the singer, right? Oh, that awful yodel. Jesus Christ.
Yodel's a moneymaker.
Oh, that yodel's just,
Being flashbacks.
Yes. Dude, I was at Q104 before I got this job. Greg and I were, the day they turned it from Kansas City's #1 hit music station, which I had no love for, but Greg and I were working at the AM side, the Z-Rock.
Right.
But all of a sudden, there was a huge staff blow up. They fired 90% of the people there. Somehow, Greg and I retained jobs, and I have no idea how.
Because you were working for $2 a day.
Well, I mean, we were, but to that point, we got massive raises, comparably.
Yes,
so
you're right.
We were working for nothing. So that's why it's always been a bit of a mystery to me. I'm like, hold on, you fired all these people, but you gave us giant raises, and I hate this music more than I hate cancer. And I'll tell you this, and overnight, everybody I knew that was normal, wearing regular clothes, came walking in these little costumes.
Yep.
And I've never, sorry, I'm so phlegmy. It gets me wound up. Like, Mike went from wearing, like, polo gear, like Abercrombie and Fitch type guy, to, like, wearing these crazy super starched, multicolored, bat-ass crazy flippy flap shirts and
Fringe and buttons.
and dusters. And it was like it was like a horror. It was like a nightmare where nobody ever took their costumes off.
And nothing made sense.
Nothing.
What was up now was going down.
It was the craziest goddamn thing I've ever seen.
It was like nonstop redneck cosplay.
Yeah. It was, but it was a time when it wasn't even redneck. Like, rednecks were like working class people. These were some kind of super pastel, fat, like fancy clothes. Like, suddenly girls didn't have pockets on their butts. I'm like, terrible idea if you got a fat ass. By the way, break it up a little bit. And terrible, like, colored clothing and. Weird stuff, and the people walking around just saying y'all, and these are people who 2 days before were completely
Playing
normal
pop music,
and they were normal,
right?
Dude, he went from Mike, he now was Cowboy Kennedy. As God is my witness.
They took them, gave them nicknames, and basically bought them all a new wardrobe.
Jackson,
Action Jackson
was Shotgun Jackson.
Now.
I was like.
Meanwhile, you and me were still walking around in leather jackets and long hair, looking like dirtbags.
Wearing leather jackets, but with shorts and Doc Marten boots. Which we were no better, but at least we were consistent.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, this is, and I mean, I'm just barely 20, I don't know, what is that, 23, maybe 22?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a weird introduction to being an adult.
Do you still have your cowboy boots they bought you?
I do. Mike made me get some to where he said, you have to wear your cowboy boots because I was doing promotions for him. And I went down to, it was the boot store at Olathe.
Olathe boot.
Yeah. And bought them, and I was so pissed. I was like, I hate wearing these things. But I still have them. By the way, really great pair of cowboy boots. Now I love them because they're black, old, broken, correct boots that I've literally had for 30 years.
Yes.
And they're perfectly worn in. Like, they're great.
Going through our closets, it is like a time warp when you look in one or two of his closets.
But
3, 4, or 5 years ago, he was about to get rid of that duster, and I'm like, oh, no, baby. Pump your brakes.
he would wear his little cowboy hat. And I loved Mike. And I was just, but imagine you have a friend that one day they look completely normal.
It'd be like you guys coming in.
Yeah, and I start wearing a suit every day. Yeah, but I mean it. Like, and I started, even your speech changes.
Yeah, like, hello, Nick. How are you doing?
It was.
Have a fantastic weekend.
It was a dark time in my life.
Both your lives.
It was a dark time, but I also am honestly completely thankful. I would never have gotten to this had Mike not died for whatever reason, taking some kind of weird mercy on Greg and I. So, I mean, as weird as that ride was, without Stan, I wouldn't have been in the game today. I would have just taken a different route in life, period.
And how about this? Finally, crew of a small Norwegian fishing boat was checking their nets, Norwegian Sea, when they received an unexpected radio call. It was the U.S. Coast Guard on the other end of the line letting them know that one of their nets caught a U.S. Navy nuclear submarine. The USS Virginia was in the area and got entangled in the fishing net. Coast Guard had to cut the net to free the 377-foot sub. Coast Guard apologized to the crew of the fishing boat and told them they would be compensated for the destroyed net. I'm Nycki Pace for the Johnny Dare Morning Show on 98.9 The Rock.